So we'll see when they get around to it. Oh, and he's here. All right, everyone. Welcome. Sean showed up right at the last minute.
Hi, Sean.
Howdy, folks.
This is the Data Center News Show, in case you didn't know, because you should know, because we're on like every week and everybody knows who we are. And we have fans. I don't know if y'all know that, but we have fans of the show. People who watch the show regularly because we're so awesome. Yes, fans.
I thought we were just doing this for fun. What the heck?
Wait, there's other people?
There's other people. Yes. And so I should make the announcement. So, the Data Center News Show is going to go on the road, and we're going to be presenting live at YADA for DCD. Whoa. Look at that. Yours truly will be at YADA doing Data Center News Showy things. So it'll be awesome. Very cool. All right, let's get this party started, and we'll kick off I'll kick off with who my guests are. Howie, sir, you can start first.
Hey, guys. Howard Berry, Avison Young, all things data center, commercial real estate related. Glad to be here.
Awesome sauce. And Joshua, your new season dropped today. Look at
Season
that.
4, yeah. Joshua Feinberg from DCSMI, the Data Center Sales and Marketing Institute, and host of the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
He keeps me on my toes. I pretend to be a podcast host. He's like a real one. I just pretend. I just come out here and wing it.
Yeah, you're doing a great show. Yeah. Great show. You're getting groupies, fans. I get groupies. Time for the merch.
I know, for sure. All right, Chris, you're up, buddy. Chris was cute. This is Chris's first time, so we all have to be nice to Chris since it's his first time on the show.
We're all nice and make the hazing gentle or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're rough, man. Like we're awful on the show. Yeah. Just kidding. All right, Chris.
Yeah. I've been in my engineering role at Flex Central now for over 10 years, so I can take a little bit of abuse here and there.
Okay, very cool. And Flex Central is a data center
cloud service provider company, so it gives us a little kind of the broad range of kind of anything and everywhere where their customer might be at, and we can take them on and help elevate or evolve them depending where they want to go.
Awesome sauce. And of course, Sean's in the house. Hey, Sean.
Hey, everyone. Sean Farney, VP of Data Center Strategy for JLL, where I help my customers who are data center owner-operators of all different sizes and segments follow the latest tech and trends and make sure their basis of design and operations reflects where we're going.
Awesome sauce. Yeah, I'm sure you're busy with all the AI stuff. I'm sure you're just a little busy, maybe just a little busy. All right, talking about AI. Used to quantum computing. Are you ready for quantum computing, Sean? Are y'all ready? You're just trying to get used to AI.
No. Like I studied quantum computing in grad school 10 years ago, and it's still not super real. Although Google's done some interesting things lately. It's very fuzzy. I think it's more Wall Street driven than anything else. There's some work going on. I'm part of a consortium in Chicago working on quantum development. In how that looks in the data center. But there's like 7 people in the world who really understand Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and how it basically manifests itself in qubits in quantum computing. So it's way out there. I don't think we will necessarily execute on it soon. Fun to think about. But yeah, how about just getting our arms around GPU densities and the massive changes we've seen because of that? I'm good with that. My clients are struggling.
You're going to start there? Is that where you're starting? Yeah. So the inflection, whoever inflection is, it just got 100 million. Maybe I should open up a quantum computing. Say, I do quantum computing.
The Quantum Computing News Show.
I'm the news show. No, but yeah, they just got 100 million and they're using it in defense. Of course, it's going for defense. I mean, everything is going to go for defense first, right? They have lots of money to throw around for no reason. So, that's pretty cool. So we'll see what they do with quantum computing. Who knows?
It feels like all the megawatts have to get figured out first.
We have no megawatts. Well, I don't know. We might have megawatts. I don't know where we're at with megawatts. Who knows where the power is these days? I don't know. Howie deals with that on a daily basis, don't you, Howie? Like, who has power? Who doesn't
Where's
have
the power?
power? Where is the
Yeah.
power? I don't know where the
It's
power.
islanded. It's not islanded. Where? Yeah.
It's stranded. I feel sorry for the stranded power. Is it like out there on its own and like nobody loves it and so it's stranded? Is that stranded power? I'm just gonna be.
It's just
I'm being-
unidentified.
just
you know,
on it. But how can you have
Yeah.
power that's unidentified? How do you?
Well,
how does that work?
There's areas that some people don't want to go that power could be sitting. You know, there's certain things that would preclude not developing in a hurricane or tornado alley, and maybe there's power sitting out in that area where you don't want to build a data center in certain national disaster areas. So
Yeah.
it could be, we see power out in those locations that nobody's going to use.
So did the utility just build it thinking like Kevin Costner's Field of Dreams, we build it and people will just come? Or, I mean, how did it get stranded? That's what I'm just trying to figure out. Don't most utilities build to like, we've got a capacity that there's a demand and so we got to build for this. I just like this whole stranded power idea, like boggles me.
A lot of renewables, you build in a certain area and maybe that power can't get transmission. You can't move it somewhere else where they need it. And that is, the transmission lines can only handle so much power and power gets stuck in a region or area.
Interesting. Do you know where stranded power is, Sean?
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Really?
It's so we're starting to build in very interesting places in the last year and a half or so, including Louisiana, for example, because there wasn't necessarily stranded power. We just didn't think outside of the box around the fuel generating this power. So in 3 years, when we've openly embraced natural gas, we will just, the new data center clusters will be along 24-inch plus natural gas transmission lines. This is already happening. We're not waiting for the grid. Traditional grid stranded power, I'll use the Midwest as an example. There's tons of it because of vacated industrial base. Vantage just found 3.5 gigawatts right over there in Fort Washington, Wisconsin. They're sitting there because between Milwaukee and Green Bay, you've got paper mills, you've got forestry, you've got mining. Fort Wayne, Indiana, same type of thing. DeKalb, Illinois, in recent years.
Interesting.
Ohio, Pennsylvania. Tech Fusions is doing adaptive reuse of industrial assets in Pennsylvania. We just are learning to look a little harder for it. Low-hanging fruit is gone, but when we double click on some industrial assets and start to look at different sources of fuel, creative destruction takes over, and the new destroys the old way of doing site selection. We've got some power to find, and in parallel, all the hypers are working on-prem self-generation. So we hear a lot about power. I think we're actually not valuing what innovations will do to power in the coming years. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So the report that AI is going to cause we need 123 gigawatts more of power. I love those crystal balls. I love when people say, by 20 whatever, we're going to need this amount of power. I mean, my crystal ball broke a long time ago. I don't make those predictions, but is it real? Chris, are y'all looking for 123 gigawatts of power?
I don't think we're looking for quite that much. I think the industry is a little bit more aligned towards looking for the biggest and best outcome of what they could have. But I don't think we'll actually use the biggest and best outcome we have. I think we'll get a little better about this. And, as Sean pointed out, there's nooks and crannies of power out there. It's more about, is it really where we can actually leverage it? Because there's a lot of things that can be worked anywhere in the country from a kind of a workload perspective. They don't have to be 2 or 3 milliseconds away for everything that's out there today.
Yeah. What is the biggest challenge in your site selection process, or what do y'all face? What are you looking for?
I think we're good on the selection process. I think the outcome is going to be more along the lines of the time it takes to get everything in place. So all the big power components. So your big power switching gear, your generators and stuff like that for redundant power. So all of that stuff in place. Those are not exactly like, hey, that'll be here next week. It's more like, hey, will that be here this calendar year or next? Those are the kind of conversations we run into.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with another developer. It's the same thing. They're waiting on switches, like the switches are like delayed for them, and it's holding up some of their projects. So that's interesting. Well, it's not interesting. You're going to find.
Mentioned Louisiana, and it was funny. I had a call with Southwestern Electric Power Company last week, and they were going, "Hey, look, we need a deposit of 1.5 million, and we are not getting you the power until 2032. Period." That's where they started. I was like, "Oh, great start." So I think that power might have gotten picked up that in Louisiana.
Probably.
They're having a hard time just spreading it out. But
so my question is, does even the utility know? Does the utility have a really good sense of all the stuff they do? Like they know where all the stranded power is. They're just not telling anybody, or do they not? I don't know.
I think they're more worried about densities.
Yeah. More worried about what?
The overall density of usage. A lot of companies are coming in and saying, "Hey, I need a whole gigawatt," but their plans actually might only be to use at most maybe half a gigawatt for their first 5 to 8 years that they're going to be in business. Mm-hmm. So that misalignment has people kind of going, well, they're padding the numbers, and are they giving us the real answer, or are they giving us what they might just hopefully have? And maybe they're kind of almost the same sense of land banking, right? So instead of just land banking, now they're going to power bank the stuff up there and say, "Oh, that's ours. It's available for us 10 years from now."
10 years from now. For sure. Well, put $1 billion deposit down. I bet they'll give it to you in 10 years.
Yeah. Money does wonderful things.
Floating around. All right. Let's talk. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to comment on that one. We see much more aggressive provisions contractually with the utilities. There's a lot of take or pay. App fees are doubled or more in certain areas. There's huge queues, and there's no freebie PPA or soft commit. You're committing to it, or else the next scaler online will go ahead and pay for that PPA. So that's been changing a lot in the last couple of years. They've had to tighten up because of the land banking and the double counting, and we see numbers 80 to 85%. Payment required whether you're using it or not, or 85. You got to pay up to 85% if you're not using it, if you've agreed to it contractually, and you're not in the build phase to take down the whole power. So that they are they're changing a bit, and they want to give away. They don't want to give away. They want to sell all of their power everywhere, and I think some of the tooling is maybe a little bit out of date for precisely locating where stranded power is. Otherwise, you would see the utility folks have huge departments of business development personnel just going out and taking this stuff and making it easy for data center providers, and it's not entirely easy yet.
So since data centers are sometimes locating out in the boondocks, and those electric providers, I'm not going to say are as sophisticated as others, the people you're talking to, or they have large teams, how do they manage all of that? So if you're like, I'll pick on somebody, let's say it's Bluebonnet Electric out in southwest of Austin. I know they've got like 2 people on their construction team. Like, how are they managing all of this? Like with data centers, what do they do? Like, if you're going to go build a substation, are they managing their capacities? Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. It would be difficult for some of the, especially the smaller ones. I mean, they're managing so every data center developer is required to come in and build the infrastructure, right? At this point now, are they all building the substations for their developments or not?
So they will, utility will build out the infrastructure. You just have to pay for it. Depends on the feeder infrastructure. You can build. When I was at Microsoft, I built my own yard and dragged in my own transformers, and then I had to manage my own power yard. There's some of that going on, but generally the utility will tell you, here's how long it takes to deliver this 1 gig, and here's what it's going to cost. Sign here, and then there's some gray depending on the location, the amount of power. I think we'll see more and more design, build, and operate of power yards as we get closer to self-generation. That this just gives large-scale consumers of power more optionality with, I won't use the word microgrid because it's terribly outdated. These are not micro, they're macro grids. As we move close to macro grid, the world of macro grid, where there's on-prem self-gen capabilities, owning your own sub and yard will have some benefits.
Yeah, interesting. So does it help the community too? Like if they wanted to, I mean, do they have, I mean, you would hopefully they're going to kick off extra power, you would think, right? Push it back to the grid. Is that a PR ability to say, hey, community, we're not awful, evil data centers. We're actually doing some good here? Or no? I don't know. I would do that.
From my experience, we've actually done that for a number of our sites, but it's very much a provider and municipality policy on a market by market basis, right? So yeah, I can't have a blanket statement that works for anything and everyone, but in my experience, I know that we've been on a point where they can actually contact us and say, hey, we're having power issues. Can you crank up your generators and feed back into the grid? And we'll do that. But it doesn't work for every site.
No. Yeah, I would assume. So Josh, tell us a little bit about what's going on with your stuff and where you're at with your new season.
Oh yeah, we just announced season 4 of the Data Center Go to Market podcast, having a bunch of guests from the technology side, the facility side, a little bit of construction, real estate, a little bit of operators, and we continue to see people trying to grow faster.
Yeah, well, of course. Right?
Globally. It's really interesting too that originally when we started planning the podcast about a year ago, we envisioned it would be like 80-90% US and a little bit from outside the US. It actually turns out there's a lot of demand for sharing these best practices globally.
Yeah.
And I know in the capital structure, it's pretty different to build hyperscale capacity in other regions of the world, but a lot of the tactical issues of lead generation, brand building, event marketing, sales enablement sound awfully similar in Singapore and South Africa and various countries within South America as they do within the US.
Well, that's cool. So you got a global reach before you knew it, right? There you go. That's awesome. Very cool. So what's the first season or the first episode of the next season? Who's speaking? It's not me, right?
Actually, the first 6 have already been released for season 4.
Oh, cool.
The first one was Zach Pena from Empirix Partners, who specializes in supply chain and logistics, worked for a bunch of military and multiple operator stints over the last several years, building massive projects. The next guest that we had in season 4 is James Bronig from Micron 21, probably one of the largest independently owned data center operators in Australia. I think the first tier 4 data center operator in Australia that runs like a hybrid managed services colo business. The third guest was a marketing engineer from Legrand in Colombia, then an IT asset disposition, then from Deep Green in the UK. They're doing all kinds of interesting things with heat reuse. If you've ever heard about the colo data centers that are going to heat swimming pools in the UK.
Well, they need it. It's pretty cold there sometimes.
That's Deep Green. The current week is Dimitri Bokte, who's a network engineer, network automation specialist, ex-Cisco guy, building all kinds of AI to help hyperscale facilities run more smoothly. And then brings us up to next week where we head back to Singapore for Eaton, and then we head back to Peru for Legrand and keep learning about all the big go-to-market challenges globally.
That's awesome. But it sounds like super cool. I'll have to watch it. Can't wait. And then yours truly is later. I talk later in the season. So y'all have to watch every episode. And then we get to me.
I think you're coming up in early or middle August. Howie's coming up, I think, right after Labor Day. A lot of great guests.
Awesome sauce. All right. Very cool. Okay. We can't ignore our president of the United States because, he's got, in case you haven't heard, this like big, beautiful bill. And then it actually is called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And I just thought he was calling it the big beautiful bill because you know how he likes to have his like phrases or whatever. But apparently, it's actually really called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The one of the things that's interesting about data centers, if it passes, and I don't know if this part will pass, but there's like a 10-year moratorium preventing states or municipalities from enacting new AI or data center specific regulations. So Loudoun County, eat it. We're going to build more data centers there. You can't stop us, right? Or whatever it might be. I don't know, but that's like super interesting if that passes. I mean, what are they going to do?
Is that more specifically on the data that's used? Or
I don't know. It's just
information?
like, no, via zoning. This is like,
okay.
You cannot slow down data center development. You can't say no more NIMBYism, apparently, is what's in the One Big Beautiful Bill. So I'm going to go stick one in my backyard because I'm excited about that. No, I'm just kidding. But, Texas, we don't care. You can stick them anywhere. Yeah, it's awesome as long as there's power, right? I find it interesting that, they're going to undermine local authority and they're just going to say you can't do it. So good news for the industry, right?
We'll definitely keep a lot of lawyers busy on both sides as everything keeps getting challenged on the federal versus local.
Yeah,
for sure. I don't know, where would it go if there was no NIMBYism? What is it, Loudoun County? Like, who's the one that like hates data centers? Well, besides Loudoun County, I mean, everybody else.
Prince William County.
William County.
2 or 3 groups. And
mostly Virginia, right? That's where they don't like them. It's interesting. They were trying to build one in San Marcos, Texas, and people were getting a little teed off about that one too. And there was a little bit of protesting about the data center coming there. I don't know why. It's not like we're short of water or power in San Marcos, Texas, but it was interesting. It's interesting kind of time.
It's weird too that some of this is so pervasive it actually even leaks over a little bit to us once in a while. We put up a short from an interview that I did with a hyperscale marketer about a year ago. We're just repurposing some of the shorts now, and it actually talks a little bit about what they're doing with power. And someone left a sarcastic comment on it last night. 100 megawatts of power. No one needs 100 megawatts of power. There's countries that don't generate 100 megawatts of power.
Yeah,
okay, you're talking to the wrong person, but okay.
Yeah.
We actually do host a lot of really good interviews around sustainability. This particular clip, the 45 seconds of it, yeah, they're taking it out of context and lashing out. They probably have all kinds of social monitoring, watching for any mention of data center power. They feel like if they fight this grassroots battle on social media, that someone will listen. I don't know.
I don't know. It's such a crazy time in our country, and I can't imagine they just need something else to yak about. I'm sure there's something else that they don't like, and somebody's going to complain about it. But it's just a hard time. It is. So, is there anything else in that bill, Howie, that you saw that was interesting?
Yeah, I haven't delved into it. I can't speak too much to it, but I was just going to say, about the 100 megawatts Joshua was mentioning, and I think it's fun to watch what Elon's doing in Memphis, and they've got another building. They're geared up to bring in some new power generation. It's all behind the meter. I think Elon's setting the pace here, and I think it's changing the way that other operators are looking at how they're going to develop, and that goes back to the conversation of behind the meter. Most still want the power grid, and we see that from a number of groups, but some are starting to say, hey, islanded power is looking interesting to us. We might start looking at that.
But aren't they looking at behind the meter power, but just as a bridge, or would they like
it's everybody will look at a bridge.
Right?
Everybody will look at a bridge from what I've experienced, but adopting a full operation, power generation as somebody else operating the power plant is, from my experience, is what I've run into. But the data, like I said, the data center doesn't want to be the utility company. But 5 nines from grid versus 5 nines from self generation is an interesting conversation.
Yeah, Sean, Chris, you want to jump in on that one?
Swinging back to the bill, I'm a fan of local authority and autonomy and sovereignty. So I don't like bills with lots of different things loaded into them personally. However, if we're seeing the start of an industrial policy which spotlights data centers as strategic assets for geopolitical leadership and dominance, I am for this. I am for industrial policy which encourages the growth of data centers because it makes us better defended as a country and a better technical leader. I think that's pretty good. If we could apply this, and it lowers some regulatory burdens, speeds up our ability to develop this asset class, including nuclear regulation, because everyone knows that's the best form of power, most abundant, most sustainable. But there are such deep regulatory hurdles and perception battles that that could certainly use some juice to speed things up. So I am a fan of the government applying help and levers, not restrictions or requiring licensing, using its mass to help an industry accelerate. And if we do define AI as a strategic technology, something that we have to win at, that kind of all lines up and then becomes maybe something. This is something we'll see developed more formally as this industrial policy. But I prefer laser focus versus kind of a peanut butter spread, with a bunch of other provisions.
You do realize you're talking about politicians, right? They don't know how to laser focus much.
Yes.
Sean, have you had much experience with the thorium versus nuclear development?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so that's what the Chinese it was technology that we've developed in the US, but the Chinese just took that application, or using thorium, which is a more abundant mineral, and they're generating nuclear. It's nuclear. They take thorium and turn it into a nuclear-ish product, but it's I guess it's cleaner, easier to manage, and the Chinese are now using that, and it like I said, it's an abundant material that we could easily be using right now.
Yeah.
I'm scratching my head on that thorium conversation, but I do believe our country, our military, did tests of thorium in nuclear reactors within jets back in the early 70s.
Right.
And so that predates me personally, but it was a book or clip I read up on, and it was very intriguing. And I was like, what happened to that? Where did it go? And apparently the oil industry kind of buried it and it don't ever come back. And so that's
that's interesting point.
It made it overseas, but we've had it around, and we just chose not to make good use of it. But here we are with the modular nuclear reactors and the SMR kind of logic, and that's the stuff that's been used on our Navy boats for 2 decades now. It just got better and improved, but now it's like, if we can put it in the backyard, we can now do the whole community, or we can do a whole data center on our own property. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And Sean said a really good thing on that point. It's the red tape and the bureaucracy, I think, that's out there right now. And I think the biggest hang up, but spanning that out and doing that in a strategic methodology is much better than trying to just wave the wand and say, hey, all across the U.S., let's go.
Yeah. Well, okay. It's thorium's. It's a cool conversation. You're talking like the thorium salt reactors, right? That's reactor.
Molten salt, right?
Yeah. And Chris, thanks for the dig, man. I don't predate the 70s. I'm just saying out loud. So thanks.
I'm on the very tail end of the 70s personally.
I'm old. Thanks, man. Way to make me feel old, dude.
What's wrong with the 60s? Come on.
I know. Well, I wasn't in the 60s, so I'm saying that. So I can say that. 60s predate me. So that's all right. Very cool. All right. So let's talk about adaptive reuse. Sean, weren't you just at a conference talking about adaptive reuse? Don't you like that your constant topic about talking about adaptive reuse?
It is reusing assets. It's the original recycling. Right?
The original recycling. So are you talking about adaptive reuse of existing data centers? Or are you talking about adaptive reuse of like other things and turning them into data centers?
Kind of both. It's a real estate term, and generally it means taking a building, let's say 350 Cermak in Chicago, that used to house printing presses for R.R. Donnelley, and turning it into one of the original data centers. And really, all the original data centers were adaptive reuse. One Wilshire, QTS in Atlanta, 350 Cermak, 111 8th, Hudson, like long list of storied assets, which we repurposed for kind of internet and data center. Version 1, building on the NAP and May architecture, old telecom architecture. And then we went away from doing that for 20 or so years and just did greenfields. And now I think given our 2.6% colo vacancy in the U.S. and our blended colo rates increasing at 14% a year, and 72% of the 7 gigawatts of data center construction in the U.S. being pre-leased, I think we need to start getting creative again on how and where we do data centers. Not to mention having to procure new power. Adaptive reuse kind of solves for all this. It can be very challenging, just like remodeling an old house is harder than building a new one. But our modular deployment technology is so good today, whether it's Compass Quantum or Vertiv or Schneider. There's amazing modular stuff that can plop into underused commercial real estate, industrial assets, warehouses, or even for an enterprise out in the parking lot. I need to do AI inferencing. I need a megawatt of that, which is, by the way, less than 8 cabinets now. I can throw a shipping container out in the parking lot and power pipe. So I think adaptive reuse may be a creative way forward for some specific use cases, not hyperscale. They're not going to do that again. That's okay. I think it offers some time to revenue benefits for sure. You can get going in 9 months. And certainly sustainability, because the embodied carbon in the construction and the steel, that's already been taken into account. So your carbon impact is really, really low.
So a bulk of the data center inventory, or the buildings that are out there today, are less. They're like a megawatt and less, or 5 megawatts and less. Like that's generally
5
what's
and
out
less.
there. 5 and less, right? So
I would say at least the majority of them are.
So if they're trying to capture AI business, are they trying to bring more power to the sites? Is that and then they're, I don't know, swapping out racks? I mean, how do you do that?
Adaptive reuse. We're actually marketing a building in downtown Fort Worth, the Star Telegram building, and 19-story building, historic site that's got a connectivity, and we're pitching a carrier hotel development here, where we have a couple operators in the building now, but this is exactly that what Sean was saying, adaptive reuse. And the benefit to it is there's credits from it, bringing a historic building, tax credits, 40% tax credit on all CapEx spent on the building, where you can benefit from coming in, taking these older buildings and adapting them into a telecom building.
Interesting. That's cool. I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're getting a lot of action on that, and there's a lot of groups, Sean, that are just, I know you've probably seen it too, that are looking for those carrier hotel adaptive reuse projects right now.
So explain to me, it's a hotel and they want to turn it into a data center?
No, it's an office building.
It's an office.
We're turning into a carrier hotel.
A carrier hotel. So it's just gonna be a telecom place where you're calling it a carrier hotel, and I'm like, what? I'm so confused. Okay.
You can't spend the night there. No.
No one's going to spend the night there? Really? No.
Hey, I've slept in a carrier hotel.
John has.
I've slept in 350 Cermak. Okay.
Wow. That's a story.
Cage sit.
I hope you weren't stuck in an elevator.
No, I was stuck deploying gear forever ago, back in the day.
Yeah.
Good times.
Oh, sounds like it. I don't know. Did you have a pillow at least, or you just slept on the floor?
I made a pillow. I got.
Yeah. I don't know. There's been job sites where I'm not going to mention that I've done that too, but there's the building inspectors coming the next day and we're not done. One of those. So yeah, been there. I'm not going to say where, but yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. So when you're looking at, besides obviously the obvious things of power, like we're doing a sort of adaptive reuse. I mean, like say we're going to take an industrial building and we're going to turn it into a data center. Is that easy if you've got the power there? Is it, and it's say it's all cooled, but even if it's all cooled, you can't, it's not cooled for a data center, right? I mean, you're having to do a bunch of MEP change outs, aren't you? I mean, I don't know what it takes. This is why I lead the show, because I get to ask all y'all what to do because I have no clue. So what do you do, Chris? You're going to take over an industrial place and turn it into a data center.
Well, simple answer is I haven't personally achieved that myself, but I would again use some common sense and some discussions around what we're looking at and how we're going to develop and grow some of our own business endeavors right now. And I'll say that you're very correct in the fact that the cooling out of the gate, the cooling is definitely not on par of what you need for the data center. So how do you get the airflow and that kind of stuff in place? Are you going to do something in a modular sense? Are you going to, hook in basically a modular environment and it's going to include all the cooling and everything else? Are you going to hook in something that might have a little bit of a gearing towards AI, where probably it's going to have some water chilled effects of maybe the, cooling down to the chip level and stuff like that, so it really keeps that cooling logic a little bit more contained. So there's some creative things that can be done in the shell or the space that's there to account for this, and it can scale up pretty high as well. And again, it's usually done in a modular sense versus trying to say holistically, I'm going to make the whole building magically do everything, right? It's not exactly the best path to success, and usually it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to have a 100,000 square foot data center, but my first customer is at 10 by 10 cage over there, and that's all I'm going to have for revenue for the first year. Financially, you're going to fall on your face at that point. So
yeah.
It's a matter of making it effective for the outcome you're trying to produce.
So are 100,000 square foot data centers still going to be needed if we're all going to these really dense racks and they're like 1 megawatt? And I don't know if we get there. I'm just making that up, but maybe we might get there. Are we going to need these big?
There's plenty of data centers that are 5, 6, 800,000 square foot kind of size too. So I mean, I picked the pretty low end of that spectrum, to be honest.
Yeah, but are those going to be needed if the densities of the racks change? Like if they keep getting denser and denser, are you going to need that big old space anymore? And then
we used to say that 100 meg bandwidth was more than anyone would ever need, right? But now we're talking 10 gig, 80 gig, terabyte kind of speeds as well. So data grows, more and more comes in there. I don't think there's an easy prediction metric at this point to really say there's a ceiling out there right now.
Yeah, I know.
Chris, what are most of your customers looking for?
We span a lot of ranges. So we have a lot of traditional legacy customers that are, we'll call the retail business. We're 5 to 10 kW a cabinet's fine. We have other customers that are more in the modern day stuff, but still in the enterprise, just hardware suite and not in AI. And they're getting up to maybe 20 to 30 kW a cabinet. But AI cabinets now are going up to 50 to 100. And the edge deployments they get are going to be 5, 6, even 700 kW a cabinet, right? So that scalability means it's going to have a lot of options. So our net new sites are actually going to be in a very sense, are going to be a modular logic so that we can take on very large edge workloads. And then we can also have other data halls aligned to be more for the retail kind of customers too, because there's plenty of customers that are not diving into the bigger spaces right now. They don't need it. They don't have a plan for it. They might talk about it, but they're probably not going to act on it for a couple more years, stuff like that.
Do you think they really are going to wait a couple more years? I mean, it just seems like it's AI or
it's a really hot buzzword, and I'd say from a partner and customer perspective, from my own view, for every 50 conversations I have, only one customer is actually acting on it and pulling the trigger.
Interesting.
These low density colo facilities too sound like they're ideally suited for repatriation projects where people are fed up with their bills from Amazon and Azure and bringing them back in house because
we see a very large amount of that right now.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
That's not easy. Yeah.
No, they're major projects.
And the other part of it is you had some CEO or CIO that was at some event and he heard that the hypervisor was the best thing to slice bread, so he's going to move everything there and never take into account what the actual workloads really are. So once he's there, how it operates, how it runs, and the outcome of what spend becomes for him is obscenely unpredictable. So if you want to get a leadership team on a real rough fight real fast, you get a CIO and a CFO in the room together. It's not a comfortable set. right? Because now they're very much bickering because usually the CIO goes, well, I put it all out here in this hyperscaler because it's perfect and it works everything wonderfully, right? But there's zero predictability to its price tag at the end of the day at that point.
Right. See,
You
the
throw in some
CFO
DevOps
sees
guys,
a refresh.
they leave a few servers on and the bill goes up $10,000-$15,000 a month
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
I mean, like at the end of the day, it wasn't last week, it was the week before, Google Cloud went down, like completely went down. And you had all these like startups, like I'm not on Google Cloud, but I had friends who were startups, like their customers couldn't get to their stuff because Google Cloud went down. Like it was like they were having to call the customer. We're sorry, we don't know what's happening. So that I've never heard of. I don't know. I'm newer to the space. Has the Amazon gone down?
It's happened. I mean, it's more or less along the lines of you have to build the architecture to the level of resilience that you expect and need, right? You can't just say, because I put it here, it's never going to go down. If you don't architect it and build it out, and whether you're talking virtual machines or containers or anything else like that, if you don't architect the front door of what this is going to be, if a meteor strikes that building, it's gone. It's just not going to be there anymore. So you have to be intelligent enough to build out to what your business level needs. Like there's some businesses that just can't justify the finances to go that far, right? But there's other businesses, they're like, hey, one bad day like that's going to hit me for the next 5 years, and I'm not going to be able to recover. So it's really, where's the sweet spot of the financial alignment to that?
Interesting. Wow, crazy. Well, okay. So, Sean, what's your next adaptive reuse project?
I'm kind of blurring the lines between adaptive reuse and retrofit, or what JLL calls future fitting. It's much catchier.
Oh, it's cute. That's cute.
Future
like
fitting. My clients, all, thanks to folks like me who were consultants and told them all to send all their stuff to the cloud. My enterprise data center clients all have old enterprise data centers that are on-prem or on company property that have stranded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 megawatts. It's empty. It's stranded space and power. Now they know, or at least their board is telling them, they need to do AI inferencing because that's where we make money. So once we finish training, we will purchase, acquire, or build our own training models, and then do inferencing to be able to sell that to our customers. And it's really, really expensive, and or technically not feasible to do this in the cloud, perhaps, because of either latency or cost. So guess what? You got to figure out how to do this, or else your business won't survive, because if you are not inferencing and on the AI train, if you don't have this in your strategic plan, your competitor will. So I see a scenario where we're almost doing adaptive reuse or future fitting of abandoned enterprise on-prem data centers. And I'd never thought I'd say we may see the resurgence of the enterprise data center, because the amount of square feet since 2017 of posted critical load has been halved because of flight to cloud since 2017. We may see a resurgence of this, and it's kind of adaptive reuse and certainly future fit-y, where we are doing AI inferencing on-prem, because again, with a cabinet of Supermicro GB300 based servers, it's 140K up. 8 cabs is over a megawatt. That can fit right out here in my kitchen, right? So you don't need space anymore, which kind of alluded to your point earlier. Are we going to be building these big data centers? I think one of the possible answers is we will continue to build data centers of all different sizes based on use case, which kind of touches on what Chris was saying. And I see a very strong need for the enterprise AI inferencing data center, which potentially is either out in the parking lot in a container, or in the old enterprise data center with all this stranded power. It's a modular solution. It leverages, by the way, your 30-year-old chiller plant, because that's what you need to interface with CDUs and other liquid cooling systems. This would be a lot of creative destruction. It's a little bit out there. But the cost of the server gear for 1 megawatt and I'm quoting Supermicro, 1 megawatt of GPU Supermicro server gear and networking and cooling is a little north of 30 million just for the servers. I mean, so everything has changed. It's pretty radical, and we need the solutions of the past are not going to get us where we need to go. But it's all just a research project, and I think in 3 years we're going to have a radically different outcome than we have today, and we may or may not know what that is. But I get paid to think this stuff up, so I got to have some good story, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I've heard of an interesting point of view when we have a million small minds out there, like all the small devices become AI components that are we're now expanding that we're not as big of a demand on the data center, but now we have a lot more, our devices, our phones or whatever are actually the AI component feeding AI. It'd be interesting how that changes the dynamic of the build.
Yeah, distributed AI GPU edge. Let's say I have some ARM chips in this that are contributing to like an old, remember BitTorrent back in the day, like this like crowdsourced AI compute that you carry in your pocket. It's not too much of a stretch, especially if we start quibbiting or if we start doing quantum on a handheld device, then
look
It's
out.
all over. Yeah. There's a story. Somebody said a friend had a 13-year-old daughter who talks to Chat GPT every day, like talks incessantly, is on Chat GPT, talking to Chat GPT like it's a friend. And they were going to the beach, and the mom was like, "No devices, no devices at the beach." So the girl goes, "I'll be back later. I'll miss you." And Chat GPT wrote back, "I'll miss you too."
Yeah,
it's really creepy.
It's the video used to be the babysitter. Now Chat is. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
they're reinvesting the communication layer at least, and versus some of the things in the past, right? COVID years, I remember driving to I think a kid's soccer game, and get a little text while I'm going there. My phone goes off. I look down. It's the kid from the back seat of my van going, "Hey, what are we getting for lunch?" I immediately stopped and I said, "You need to ask me that in words and never do that again."
Yeah, no. My kid doesn't.
It was
like in his room, and I'm across the house. He's texting me. He's like too lazy to get out of his bed and come and go, "Hey, what are we doing?" And I'm like, seriously? Yes, I know.
Sorry, kids, we ruined you.
We did. We totally ruined our children.
You can blame your grandparents.
I know. But I mean, if it becomes that innocuous, right? And everybody's using chat that way. And like they've said, it's like millennials are using it as a life advisor, right? People are interacting with chat or Claude or pick your poison, pick your LLM, and interacting it with every day. The amount of compute just geez Louise, man. Do we have enough today to do that with? Or are we gonna run out of computing power? Like, I don't know. I love it when I get the Chat GPT. We've got too much going on. You're gonna have to wait answers. Like I get those every once in a while. And I'm like, damn, I guess I should pay the $20 a month. Crap. Maybe they'd like me more. Maybe I wouldn't have to wait for my answer.
That's a good injection into why things along the lines of the autonomous driving is kind of multiple layers of AI, right? So we've got some core thinking, that's the big massive core thinking, but it's not the decisive last second, like turn here right now because of an accident kind of thing too. So that's the version of having onboard versus centralized. So it's a very distributed logic of how all that works.
Yeah, no.
I liked how the other day mine advised me. It said, maybe you should have your assistant Alex do that for you.
Oh, it actually said that?
Oh, it said that.
The token memory that it has now of remembering things from weeks ago and months ago is insane.
Yep. Yeah, it's so creepy. I know. It is crazy. And I don't know if I said this before, but on my chat, I was like, stop complimenting me. Just give me the answer. I just want the answer. Don't tell me, oh yeah, that's a great idea, Amy. Blah, 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 and we could do really great things. So like, I don't care. Yes, I know it's a great idea. I said it. Just tell me the freaking answer.
If you want to do something fun, ask it to roast you.
Oh man. Oh, that would
wild.
Be
it's all good. So it remembers you asked it last week, and then it gets you again this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Right. Oh, you should be like drinking whiskey when that happens. Like, I think that's a requirement when you ask ChatGPT to roast you. It'd be interesting for sure. All right. Well, look, we're here. All right. Our hour has come and gone. This is awesome. I'm so glad. We're such a fun group. This is so awesome. All right. Outros, anything cool? Like, how we start?
Oh wow, pressure on. Anything
I
cool?
know. Like,
Everything's cool. Everything every day something changes. There's always something to talk about in this industry. So I'm glad to be here with you guys talking about it.
All right. How can people get a hold of you?
Right here.
Right here.
Howard
I know.
Berry,
Just come to
DavisYoung.com. I made it easy.
You made it easy for people now. Look at you. All
I
right.
know.
Parting thoughts, Joshua?
For anyone that wants to get a hold of me, LinkedIn's a great place. Joshua Feinberg at DCSMI. If you want to learn about some of those upcoming podcasts that Amy and Howie were talking about, we have a newsletter on our website. You can sign up for at DCSMI.com.
Very cool. And our newbie, he's a fully initiated. You'll have to come back, Chris. You'll have to
come back. I'm going to use that little field now that I know what's good for it. I can put my email in there. But for now, LinkedIn is an awesome spot to find me, and
Yes.
We can go from there.
Yeah, awesome. And Mr. Farney, Sean.
Great time to be alive in data centers.
It is.
Good time. We all picked right. Good for us.
Yeah.
and I love
Good
the
for
topic.
us.
Yeah,
Good
it
for
is good for us.
It is.
It is good for us for sure. All right. Austin, Samana. See y'all next week. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Adios.
Amy.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Howie. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thanks.